Talk Like That, a monthly podcast by Mark Byron Dallas on voices, dialects, accents, and the people who use them.
Episode 3, Talk Like Juan Carlos Velis.
I'm honored to have with me online actor, director, producer, and writer Juan Carlos Velis, who has worked in countless theaters across Canada and the United States, including Theatre Passe Muraille and Toronto's Classical Soul Pepper Theatre Company. He's written several plays that have toured and played to sold-out theaters. He regularly works in commercials, print, and voice. He's a founding member of and serves as artistic director and executive producer of Acropolis Theatre Company, which produced the annual Shakespeare on the Thames Theatre Festival in London, Ontario. His acting career started at the age of 3 in his native El Salvador, in leading roles in several television shows, and when he was 8 years old, he made his film debut in Barco de Papel. Juan Carlos, thank you for coming on to Talk Like That.
Wow. Cool intro.
Hey, I just gripped it straight from your IMDb page, so...
Yeah, my agent wrote that.
So you started, I had to stop myself laughing there, when it says your acting career started at the age of 3.
Yes, I started acting when I was 3 years old.
Oh, man. I don't even know if I was potty trained by that time.
I think it all started with me. It all started with my mom and my dad teaching me to recite poetry. And, my dad's a writer and university professor. My mom's a teacher. So we would always have musicians and writers and artists over at our house all the time. And I remember my dad would say, yeah, so-and-so is coming. Take a look at that poem. Maybe you should learn it. And be like, okay, cool. And I would I literally would get my mom. I mean, at the beginning, it'd be like, then just repeating it. And I'd be repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. I mean, that's how I used to learn my lines as well. For the TV shows. You
were basically a willing stooge in this.
Yeah,
I can imagine a lot of kids would be like, oh, do I have to? Can I just watch this little bit longer? I have to learn that poem. I'm not performing Monkey Mom. But you were like, yes,
I guess I liked it. I enjoyed it and I wanted to, right? Because wow. I mean, then I remember it came from me that I wanted to be on TV. I remember watching some of the shows, and I remember asking my mom and dad, is that film here? Which I don't know how I understood that already. Because I guess, we get a lot of American TV as well, right?
Yeah.
So anything that was in Spanish, originally, I just assumed that it was filmed in El Salvador.
Right.
So my dad was like, yeah, we'll find out and see who, I know a few people, blah, blah. And then I had an audition and
so he pulled a few strings? He pulled a few strings and got you in there as an actor?
So my father's brother's wife, her brother, he was well known in El Salvador as well and in Latin America, but, he's a producer, a songwriter, musician. And he was the head of the showrunner of this TV show. And my dad asked, and then he's like, yeah, bring him for an audition. And I remember going to the audition, and quite funny. I remember telling the story of the day I was born. And they were like, what? Yeah. They were like, what? Exactly. And I was like, yeah, I remember the day I was born. And honest to God, I mean, people might say or will say I'm crazy, but I do remember the day I was born.
That's amazing. I don't think there are many people that could claim to remember the day they were born.
I remember the smack on the bum because supposedly I wouldn't, I wasn't reacting or whatever a little baby's supposed to do there first.
Oh, that was the smack on your bum, not your mum.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
No, that was on my bum. And I remember all that. And people are like, you're crazy. And I'm like, I swear that I do. And then again, I remember everything. I remember every single moments, or the first house where I was born. Yeah. I know that we moved from that house when I was 3 and a bit when my sister was born. So yeah, so
basically you're like the memory man. You're kind of that's
probably,
your stage
probably
act.
the good memories. Probably the good memories.
Well, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit about growing up in El Salvador, because I understand that around that time, the political situation was heating up, right?
Yeah, in the late 70s, 80s. I mean, when Monsignor Romero was killed around that time, the 80s, 1980, that was insane. And you know, my dad being a writer and an artist and a university professor were all basically the clandestine cells of this city. The beginning of the revolution were happening. That was at the university. And so my dad was, and my mom, they were very much involved with it, founding members of the revolution.
Wow.
And, well, you know, one thing led to another. And basically we got kicked out. I'm just like thankful that both my mom and dad are alive and they weren't killed by the right-wing government of El Salvador, because a lot of their colleagues and friends were, you know, taken in the middle of the night and never seen again.
Yeah.
Thrown into clandestine prisons. I mean, all that, I had no idea that was going on.
Right. You're probably protected to a certain degree by your parents anyway.
I mean, my mom and dad worked their butts off to make sure that we had a nice, comfortable, sheltered life.
All that had to stop so that you could up sticks and get the heck out of the country, right?
Yeah, and then then the situation started getting really bad, and my dad basically got a letter saying, "You leave by this day, or you die." Yeah, I remember the day that my dad and my mom told us as a family. I remember my dad pulled out the map of the world, and he literally draped over the dining room table, and he was like, "Okay, this is what's happening." We're like, "What war? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, I was waiting for you guys to get a little older so that you guys could understand what's going on, but we're forced to do this now. So we need to choose as a family where we're going."
Wow.
And he knew that this was coming, right? So him and my mom, they wanted to make sure that wherever we went, it was legally, right? That we went there legally.
Yeah.
So he's like, the three places that have opened up their doors to us are Canada, Australia, and Sweden. And he pointed at the three spots on the map. And my little sister at the time, she was 2.5, and she pointed at Canada, and she said, "We should go to Canada." And we all kind of like looked at her and were like, "Really? How come?" And she literally had her little finger on like on Canada, and she dragged it all the way south to El Salvador, and she said, "If we don't like it, we can drive back."
Wow.
And and we're like, "Okay, we're going to Canada." And we also already have family here. My aunt and my cousins, they had moved here a year before us. So yeah, we're like, yeah, Canada it is, right? And then and I am thankful. I'm so grateful that we came here. I mean, I think I'd be a completely different person if I grew up in Sweden. I'm who knows? I might still be an actor. I mean, there's a lot of work there. I would probably not be an actor. I think I most likely would have apply myself more in the sciences and the math, and I would have gone that direction.
Okay.
And still the community theater on the side.
So you could have ended up being a Swedish nuclear physicist.
Wow, that sounds really good.
You've only got your sister to blame now. All I can say is thank goodness things didn't get bad enough in Canada that you wanted to drive all the way back to El Salvador.
No, that's why I love Canada. I mean, it's my home, right? It's treated us really nicely, and we were all able to become successful, quote unquote, whatever the meaning of that is. Both my mom and dad. I mean, when they first got here, obviously none of us, we didn't speak any English.
When you arrived, you can speak English
at all. I mean, all I knew how to say, "Hello, how are you? What is your name? What time it is?" That's literally all I knew how to say. I didn't even know how to say, "Where's the bathroom?" Because I remember at the airport, when we arrived at Pearson, I really needed to go to the bathroom, and I didn't know how to say it. And I remember asking this one guy, "Where is toilet?" That's all I knew, because I had read, I guess, the French, the French and like sign
Yeah.
at the airport. So then I was like, "Where's the toilet?" And then the guy was like, "I don't know what the hell you're saying, kid."
You mean
I
the washroom?
yeah, and I literally went, psst, and I like with my best impression of taking a pee. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, that way," and I was like, "Well, thank you."
However, Juan Carlos's attempts to get himself a manager in Canada did not get off to a good start.
I remember this talent, quote unquote, agency opened up shop in London, Ontario, one of the malls downtown. And they started advertising that they were looking for people to be in commercials and movies and Hollywood is calling you and all that. And I went to see what it was all about. And they were like, "Oh yeah," they had like headshots and yeah, we can take your headshots and this is how much it's going to cost you. We would suggest you open up an American bank account because you're going to get paid in American dollars.
Oh, man. This doesn't sound good.
I know. No.
Something bad gonna happen.
I literally gave them $100 of probably my mom's and dad's hard-earned money. Yeah. And I gave it to them and they were like, "Yes, so we're going to get you a lot of work and blah, blah. How do you feel about having someone accompany you on sets?" And they were like totally selling it, right? And they threw the word professional in quite a bit. And I said no to headshots because one of my teachers in high school had taken pictures of me and I was using them as my headshots. And they got me. I mean, they got me one job, this agency, where it was basically background. So I was an extra on a CBC series. Oh, I can't even remember what it was called. And I ended up playing like an OPP cop. They literally picked me up. Well, they picked up like 50 of us in a Greyhound bus in London, and they drove us to Toronto for the filming. And I literally got $25 cash for the whole time I was there. Wow. And a peanut butter sandwich for like my snack and like a lunch that they pay for, right? And
wow, they paid for lunch? Amazing.
Yeah. and I literally got my $25 cash for that day, and I still had to give my commission to the agency. Oh, so then I was like, okay, so these guys are gonna start getting me work. Like I was very excited about it. And I showed up because they said that, okay, so come on Wednesday. We're going to have a meeting to talk about your future and Hollywood and blah, blah, and all that, right? And I mean, it's happening. See, you can see it's happening for you already.
You might earn another $25.
Yeah. And I was like, cool. All they wanted was for me to pay them like $750 for the headshots, right? Wow. And I kept saying, no, I don't need the headshots. Yeah, but you're going to need professional ones, you know? And well, the point of it is that I was going to that meeting to talk about my big future Hollywood career. And all that was left was like, the office was empty and with a lock and my $100 gone.
Oh, man. And in those days, $100 was a lot
my
of
crushed little heart.
Oh, that's so sad.
Once I graduated theater school and all that, right? Toronto, and I was very lucky, and I got my first gig at Soul Pepper. So I ended up doing a lot of theater, yeah, and I tour a lot with a company called Roseneath Theater, which was a beautiful company to work for. But then when I wanted to, I really want to do film and TV, and I figured it out, and I got my first commercial. It was like a Tim Hortons commercial that I got. Oh, wow. With my first permit. And once I got my third credit, I go to the union and I'm like, hi, so I'm here to join. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, there's a rule. Do you guys say that visual minorities, we can join the union with 3 credits instead of 6? At the time, you had to get 6 credits within 2.5 years, I believe. And if you didn't get your 6 credit by the time was up, then you will go back to 1. I think that's how it used to be. So I'm like, okay, 3 credits, and the lady looks at me. She goes, no, you need 6. And I was like, what do you mean I need 6? I'm a visual minority. And she's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, what are you talking about? My name is Juan Carlos Velis. I wasn't born here. When the breakdown comes in, I'm not really allowed to go out for the Bob Smith part. I can't audition for that. So yeah, look at me. just look at me and look at the way I sound. And she was like, no. And this is what she said, blacks and Chinese. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. And then she's like, look, us, and she, because she's Italian, and then she's like, us, we're not visual minorities. And I'm like, whoa. Listen, just because I'm saying this doesn't mean that I have a complex and I consider myself any less. You might have a complex with that, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm going with the rule of 3 credits. And she's like, okay, fine. We'll see, and we'll whatever, work whatever out they need to work out. But by the time they call me to tell me that I could join, I already was on my 6th credit. So I was like, yeah, you just wanted my money.
Yeah. So
I
got your 6 credits. There you go. Stop it.
I never joined. I never joined with 3 credits, and I never got my money back for the other 3 credits.
Oh, man.
I asked Juan Carlos if the transition from theater to film was a smooth one.
I probably not, to be honest. Just, clicking with just the different styles of acting. Like, I had done a lot of theater, right? And I had done tours, like playing school gyms for like 400, 500 kids, right? So at the beginning, I think I was really theatrical and really big. And what helped me, and I'm very thankful, is that I had a lot of auditions at the beginning. And I'm very lucky. I still get a lot of auditions. But at the beginning, for someone that doesn't really have any credits or anything, I remember going out a lot. And I think that was my schooling, right? So my schooling was in the hands-on, and still is my schooling. Any audition that I do up to now, that's I try to make it better than my last one, right?
Yeah.
And with work as well. So I've never really had an acting coach after theater school. I think it's all been sort of you talk to friends and help each other out with auditions and stuff like that as well, and just watching other people, and that's how I sort of transition into it.
Let's move on to your experience as an actor in what we often term Hollywood North. Like, for example, as a person of color, are you typecast? And if so, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I used it to my advantage, obviously, right? To use my look and my voice. It's a fine line, right? Because I've had to play all those thugs that I wouldn't have been able to play if I lived in LA.
Right.
So, I think I've created myself a nice little niche here where I've gone from playing a priest to killers.
Wow.
So, which I had to learn and teach myself how to be a thug, right? Because,
wow.
I'm sure the first couple of auditions I went out for, Gangbanger number 17, I'm sure I didn't sound like a guy from East LA. I'm sure I sounded very my natural Canadian, I guess, accent. And yeah, I had to learn how to play the part, right? To book those parts. That hardly come along.
How did you go about that? How did you go about working on your voice to sound like someone from East LA or wherever it was?
A lot of watching movies, to be honest. A lot of watching good performances. And I ended up watching a lot of actors that weren't necessarily Latinos, but they were playing Latinos. And I was like, okay, how are these guys doing it? And Jeffrey Wright, he was in the remake of Shaft. That's where I saw him. And I believe he might be British, but he played this Puerto Rican dude or Dominican, / Cuban in that movie. And I was like, who the hell is that guy? And then I'm like, he's not even Latino. And I sort of mimicked what he was doing. And I remember I was auditioning for a show called Street Time, and I had to play this crazy gangbanger. And I remember practicing with that guy's intonation, in all honesty. And once you kind of click into those characters, then they're easy to come back, and then you can give it a bunch of different flavors and colors. right?
Oh, so let's say you're going in for the audition and you're there in front of the casting directors and you've got to play this part as LA Thug or whatever. Like, do you go into the audition as that person, or do you have a couple of seconds to make your passage into that person, or do you just click into it immediately? What's your process there?
I usually go in as myself, especially if when it was like the first time meeting a certain casting director, right? I remember you make sure you go in as yourself, and my open arms and big smile, ready to work. And then you kind of click into the other stuff. Because I remember one time I was auditioning for a movie with Harvey Keitel and Gerard Depardieu and like a bunch of big name actors. And they said they wanted me to come in and do a Mexican accent. So I went in and I did the part. But I was like playing, orale, what are you doing, man? The Mexican accent. And I remember the director just kind of looked at me and goes, that was great. Thank you. And I was like, I knew, no, I'm not the one for this. So he thinks. And as I'm leaving the room, I turn around and I went, you don't want the Mexican, right? And he's like, what? I goes, you don't want Mexican accent. You want more like a guy from like a Dominican guy, right? More like this type. You want me to? And he's like, hey, yes, please sit down. And he's like already pointing for me to like sit down and do the scenes again. And I did him, and I booked the part.
Nice. So basically what you did was you kind of went on your instincts to like his reaction to you, which obviously like his face was saying something other than what he was actually saying in words. And you thought, okay, you kind of managed to think around that and say, I know what he's thinking. I know what he's after.
And I ended up booking it. What was really funny about that whole experience is that I never did the movie. I got a call like saying that the part had been written out and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay. No, that's cool. That's fine. And then what happened was about 7-8 months later, I got a call from my agent saying that the director wanted to speak to me. He called me and he said that he was wondering if I could dub the entire performance for him. And I said, what? And he's like, yeah, what happened, Juan Carlos, is one of the executive producer's cousins ended up playing that part. He's not Latino at all. And I was never able to get the right accent out of him. And I was wondering if you could dub the entire performance for me. It was very tempting. I was really, really freaking broke. I was so poor. But I said no. I said, you know what? I'm sorry. I appreciate you thinking, and I wish we would have actually had the chance to work together. I hope that we do have the chance to work together eventually. But I can't do this one. And he's like, I totally understand. I totally get it, because I would have also said no. That's what he told me. So I was like,
I mean, okay, I know a lot of
it would have been a lot of money.
it would have been, but it would have turned out to be a weird product. Dubbing a movie in the same language that it was done in, it would have been kind of odd. Is there anyone in particular that comes to mind that you really enjoyed collaborating with?
Nicolas Cage was cool. Like he was intense, right? It was all about the work. Like it was all about the script. And he was like, no, wait. This is the heart of the movie. Like he was really intense. Really lovely guy.
Yeah.
Really lovely guy. I mean, hung out with him. Intense, super intense.
Yeah.
It was great.
That comes across though in his acting as well, right? I mean, I guess that's why it's become like a huge meme, like the Nicolas Cage meme. So that's the intensity that does that to you.
Bruce Beresford, who directed a movie that I did about the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, he was beautiful. I mean, I'm still friends with him. We still talk and text all the time. He directed Driving Miss Daisy and directed Black Robe and Crimes of the Heart. I think like all these like movies that I really enjoy. So I was really excited to work with him. I mean, there was a little kind of mini hiccup at the beginning on my first day of work. Head of the network came to basically check me out to make sure that I was the right choice for the part.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty nerve-wracking. Bruce really took me under his wing, and he was like, "No, man, no, they're not gonna make me change my mind. You're the one that I wanted this part, and that's it. They know that I will walk away." So I was really happy about it. Arome Goen has been awesome. I mean, I've always wanted to work with him, and then I got the chance to audition for him. Also pretty weird the way I got that first gig with him, because my wife and I were driving to New York City to see a show. So we were leaving at like 4 a.m. because she was like 8 months pregnant, so we couldn't fly. We were driving the next morning, and then my agent calls like around 6:30 the night before we're leaving that I have an audition for Arome Goen, and I was like, oh no. And I was like, oh God, I don't know what to do. And I explained that I've always, my poor wife, the little time that she gets off, I end up canceling things because of auditions, and that never end up happening. So I said, can you ask if I can record it and put it on tape? And she's like, are you sure? It's with Christopher Plummer. You're going to be acting opposite Christopher Plummer. And I was like, I know, but I can't do this. We already have it all set up. We're leaving at 4 a.m. And she's like, okay, I'll ask. And then they let me put it on tape. And I ended up putting it on tape and sent it in, hoping that I would get a call back and meet Arome Goen in person for the job. I ended up booking it just from the tape that I sent, which was crazy. And I was like, I was hoping to get a call back, but he booked me right away. And lovely guy. I mean, I saw him again, a fundraiser for a theater company that my wife was running. We were doing a fundraiser. Arome Goen was there supporting, and he's like, man, I really enjoyed working with you, and just know that any other time that I'm doing a movie and there's something for you, I will give you a call. And I was like, oh, wow, thank you. I really appreciate it. And he's like, and I hope that working with Christopher Plummer has helped your career. I hope that that means a lot. And I remember saying, actually, you know what? It means a lot that I'm in an Arome Goen movie. And he was like, oh, that's really lovely. And fair enough. Like, then I got a call from him again saying, listen, I wrote this script called Guest of Honor, and we wanted to see if you could do this. And it's like, it's a tiny little part, but I literally wrote it with you in mind. And I was like, awesome. Wow. Awesome. Yeah, of course.
It's amazing. You wrote it with you in mind. Tell me about working with Matt Damon in Downsizing.
Matt Damon, really cool guy. Really, really, really nice guy. Really. I remember we were filming all the way out by like Airport Road and Highway 7, like way up north from the city. But the trailers, we were like way down at like Lakeshore. So the AD came on and he's like, hey, Juan Carlos, we're going to go to set now. And you take everything with you because we're not going to have time to go back and forth, right? Because, traffic and all that, and it's really far away. So I was like, yeah, cool. And so I went and it's like, well, we have separate dressing rooms for you guys on set. So don't worry about it. So I was like, awesome. So I'm there, kind of just relaxing and getting ready. And in walks Matt Damon into my dressing room. And I was like, oh, I'm in the wrong one. Here comes the number one guy in the call sheet. And he's like, hey, how's it going, man? I'm Matt, and you're Juan Carlos. And I was like, yeah. He's like, nice to meet you. And he starts taking his, backpack off and taking his jacket off and like hanging everything there. And I was like, sorry, dude, I think I'm in the wrong spot. I'll just go talk to the AD. It's like, no. It's like, I should have said something. I'm sorry. He's like, I took the liberty of asking them if we could share the same dressing room to hang out and become friends. And kind of like, so that it reads on film. And I was like, wow. Oh, you know what, man? I'm sorry. I don't work that way. I think, nothing personal, but I just don't want to, you know what I mean? I have a lot of stuff to say right now that it's kind of like tongue twister, and can I talk to someone about it? And he was like, oh shit. Sorry, man. No, obviously. And he's like, I can't believe, I'm sorry for crossing the line. And I'm just like, I'm fucking kidding, man. and he's like, oh.
So you psyched Matt Damon. You totally fucking psyched him.
So from that moment on, he was like, yeah, man. And he's like, he gives me a big hug. And he's like, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So it was like kind of setting the mood, right? And really, really nice guy. Really nice guy. Lovely guy.
Tell me,
Have you played characters with...
different accents, like in either in English, and you mentioned Spanish as well. You played some characters with different Spanish accents.
Yeah. For me, in all honesty, it's a lot easier to do all the different accents in Spanish than English, obviously. I mean, in English, even right now, I'm still wondering, do I sound... It's a weird thing, like that you can't hear your own accent. For you, you're just talking normal, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
So I sometimes like I have my daughter or Sawyer go, ooh, they'll repeat a word, and I was like, did I really say it that way? They're like, yep. And we have fun with it. Yeah, like in Spanish, it's a lot easier for me to go from, a guy all the way from Argentina, Chile, and I played that already as well. Then Colombian, and then Central America is like my own.
Let me have you test me. Okay, so like if I say, ¿Cómo se llama, che?
Pero mira, che, ¿qué es lo que te pasa? Maradona es muy bueno para el fútbol, ¿no es cierto? No seas tan boludo.
Yes. You got it. Yeah. Yeah. So what accent is that?
That's from Argentina, man.
Of course. You sound
Argentina.
exactly like my buddy who's from Argentina. That's so funny. When you did that.
No seas tan boludo, che, ¿qué es lo que te... and then like you move up a bit, right? Like, yeah, there's that mix of Italian and there's also Jewish and like a lot of mixes into the Spanish, right?
Yeah.
And then you move up a bit, and then the Chileans is like almost like that Argentinian sort of chanty. I mean, I did a play called The Refugee Hotel where I was playing Chilean, and then we got to do it in Spanish. We did a reading of it in Spanish, and I would need to be looking at the text of that to jump into the Chilean. But the Chilean, that's chanty,
like a sing-songy type thing.
Yeah,
like intonation.
Yeah, but it's not as like pointed as the Argentinian, right?
Yeah. How about Colombian?
And the Colombians, it depends on the location as well, right? In terms of if you're more coastal, like coast of the country, and because it starts sounding Caribbean as well at the same time, right?
Yeah,
that whole part of it. I mean, with the northern part of Colombia faces the Atlantic there. It's that combination of like Dominican, Cuban, but a little softer. It's not the Cubano. It's not that far, right? It's that a little pulled back.
Right. Cool. Where is it you start to hear like the S's disappear? Like, is it lo cubano?
Yeah, they eat the S's a lot. I mean, my wife says that we eat our consonants a lot. Like, she's like, I have no idea when you and your dad are talking. I don't know what the hell you guys are saying. Like, it's because then you go to El Salvador, and El Salvador's got its own like way, right? I mean, like the voice kind of is dropped, and it's like it becomes almost like airy when you're like just breathing through, right? And then so that I totally hear it when you're conscious of it. I totally hear that we don't really care about the sound of the difference between a V and a B.
Yes.
We just say it. We just
say
it. Yeah. And I think, you know what, to be honest with you, that had a lot to do with me learning English. in terms of the positioning of the tongue, right? And because in English, there's the tongue is like, it'll go from pointing straight up to the roof of the mouth, and then very plosive coming back down, and just the way you put the lips and all that, it's you create the different sounds.
Yeah.
And me being used to like not even caring about a consonant or the proper sound of an S, it makes it difficult for that accent.
Yeah,
right?
because you can't really transfer that into English. Like, English has got enough problems without bringing that over from another language.
Yeah. Because the Spaniards have that sound of like the difference between the C and the S and the Z, right?
Yeah.
Dos
cervezas. Yeah,
and
that's like up in Madrid, right? The Madrileños. In the Madrileños, dos cervezas. But when you go down in the south, go down into past the Sierra Nevada, and then it's dos cervezas. Dos cervezas. It's like, what the hell? I remember I had a problem one time. Like, it was during our honeymoon, and I had to go and buy some batteries for like a CD player or something. I went into this village store, and in the middle of
your honeymoon, I need batteries. I'm like, where's this going?
A CD player. Honestly. Where is this going now?
I had to go buy batteries for I'm like, what?
Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that it was during
my honeymoon.
So it was in this little village.
And then you found the difference.
And I said, dos baterías, por favor. And the guy goes,
which, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And then he goes, do. And I went, okay. He goes, do. I said, lo siento, no entiendo. And he goes, dos baterías. I'm like, oh, sí, dos. Yes.
And where was this exactly?
This was in a little village called Montefrio. It's in the middle of Andalusia.
Yeah, it's like from like where Antonio Banderas is from.
Right. Yeah, and it's like they have this kind of weird accent, like the Andalusianos are, it's like miss out all the S's. It's like, what? You've been learning Spanish from like Madrid or something, and then it's like you try to. It's like, okay, so I think I kind of get it now. And then you go somewhere else that's not in central Spain and you're lost. Or you go to the East Coast and they don't speak Spanish so much to you there. Like, they understand it, but they're not going to speak it back to you. They speak Catalan.
I asked Juan Carlos if he'd ever been cast for a role that was neither Hispanic nor Anglo.
I used to go out a lot for Middle Eastern, especially when I lived in Vancouver. I went out for a lot of Middle Eastern characters. But it came a point where, like, I said, I can't do this. I get pissed off when I see other people coming into to audition for the Latino parts, and they've never even been to Mexico, I put myself in those shoes and say, okay, I can't. I don't. It's not ingrained in me. It's not my life. It's not the way I have the Spanish, the culture within me to be able to portray it properly. So I remember I asked my agent. I said, I can't go out for those. And he's like, why not, man? There's so many jobs. Because it was a time where, like, everything was like TV and film was all about Middle East, right, and all that. So it was like 24 and all that stuff. Things that I auditioned for. That
you got it. It's like knowing where to draw the line between like what you can do and what is appropriation. What is for me and what is like out of bounds. Sometimes that lines can be a little bit blurred, but it's a tricky one.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so hard, right? Because I mean, I don't mind, and yes, we're all actors, and if you are like an amazing actor and you can pull off the Latino and you look the part and you can pull it off and you do it better than me, because I've also had to learn how to play the thugs. And if you can do it better than me, fine, more power to you. Cool. But I get angry when I don't even get the chance to audition for those parts. Right. That it goes straight to someone else. Like, I mean, and it's mostly like it goes to Italians a lot, and it goes to Greeks. And sometimes I don't even get to audition for those parts. And I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. That's when I get angry. At least give me a chance to be part of it.
So I wonder if there's a caveman out there that's really angry that you got the part. You got the part of Duh. But you were someone called Duh.
I played Duh.
In Far Cry Primal.
Far Cry Primal. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about that. I mean, I've seen the game. I haven't played it, but for people out there that have never seen Far Cry Primal, tell us what the setting is, and then who was the character you played? Duh.
The game, and also again, this coming from me, I'm not a gamer. I've never played the game. I've seen some of the cinematics on YouTube. I've never actually seen the game. Mm-hmm. But the game is set 10,000 years BC, mm-hmm. right? So they hired a couple of linguistic professors from university in Kentucky, I believe, and they came to Toronto and they actually wrote the language how they thought it would have sounded in terms of evolution, right, at that point in time.
So they constructed an entirely
entire new language, borrowing words from Latin, from French, German, like a lot, and it was all combined, and then given these like sort of specific rhythm, right? And that was such a good gig. So we actually went to
learn.
We went to like language class, like for like 2 weeks. I remember every day from 9 to 5, we went and we learned the language. They wanted us to actually have a conversation. And I mean, and I could. Now I obviously I've forgotten. I couldn't even tell you a single word.
Well, you don't use it, you lose it, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing that you haven't had many 10,000-year-old people to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you a single word right now. I mean, I could
let me see if I can refresh your memory.
So, Yuri Al-Shazar, the crowd of Waida, crowd Hada Al-Shazar, Guan, Udaha Al-Shazar,
Udaha.
I couldn't tell you what it means now.
So there's a lot of grunting and shouting and Uda, which I think means
and they
kill da.
Yeah, like and the game is 3 different tribes, mm-hmm. and I was like the leader of the one tribe, mm-hmm. And yeah, so we're all sort of fighting with each other kind of thing, and they're just trying to take over the other tribe's land, basically, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And
did you have to learn the script beforehand?
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you learned this. And I remember going, man, learning like, because that was like like 6 months or more that we worked on that, and I didn't really do anything else in between when I was doing that. And I used to say, man, learning like regular text in English is going to be so much easier, so easy now compared to this.
Wow, crazy. So,
but I mean, it was like learning when you're learning something phonetically. I read that when Antonio Banderas did his very first American movie, Mambo Kings, that it was like his first American sort of movie, and he had to learn it phonetically, and he's had a translator, I think, on set for the actual direction. Like it's wow, I'm like, that's crazy.
So when you learned this one phonetically, did you use IPA, like International Phonetic Alphabet Characters, or?
Yeah, and that's something that I learned in theater school. Our voice teacher in university, he took a lot of time for us to learn that, and it does. I mean, it's the easiest way to explain it, right? How to like.
Yeah. But it's useful to have that ability to use the International Phonetic Alphabet to be able to scribble down exactly how something is pronounced.
And it did help me in terms of English and the placement of the tongue. Like I said, right? It's when I'm not being lazy. You know what I mean? Like I'm not being lazy when I'm speaking really fast. Like I'm conscious about like my tongue, where it's going, and the proper placement of things to create the proper English sounds.
Right. The subtleties, right? The subtle differences between them.
And with that, with all those symbols, like it tells you one by one where your tongue goes.
Yes.
Like it's cupped, and you're feeling a little bit of the bottom of like underneath your tongue, but the tongue is just touching the top part of your top teeth. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's that detail, right? Like it's really cool. I mean, for that game, we didn't go into that detail in terms of the actual pronunciation. It was like just do like yourself what you would think you would sound like.
Because no audience is going to come back and say, you know what, Darth's accent would not have quite sounded like that. Like who's going to? No, no one's around from that time to say, well, it's not quite right. Yeah. You sound a little bit more Eastern cave than Western cave, you know?
Yeah. And in terms of the physical part of that gig, the guy that did all the movement for Planet of the Apes, you know, the Mark Wahlberg movies, he came in and we had like movement workshops. Like it felt like I was back in theater school, man. And they taught us how to like, you know, the movement of like a caveman, right? And it's like, it was really, really cool.
So you didn't
just
have
a fun
to
gig.
learn a constructed language that was supposed to be set in 10,000 odd years ago, but you did the mocap for that as well.
Ubisoft. I mean, they go all out, and it's a wonderful company to work for. I mean, I've done a couple other ones afterwards, some that I can't really say yet. We're working on one. I had to do also a bit of a different accent on this last one as well. I can't say more.
Okay, but it's in English.
I want to, but I can't.
Okay. Okay. We'll wait and see when that comes out and check it out. Awesome. And I know you're a really busy guy because trying to pin you down is taking a while, right?
I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
There's a few people that have asked and they're waiting in line, I guess.
Let them wait. No, let them wait.
No, I really need to. It's hard. Like, well, you know, with kids, it's really hard. No, thank you so much.
Yeah, keep
cool. So we'll talk. We'll keep in touch.
Definitely. All right. Thanks so much, Juan Carlos.
Okay. Thank you.
See you soon, yeah. Take care.
Later.
You can keep up to date with any upcoming episodes by liking the Talk Like That page on Facebook, and join in conversations with entertainment professionals and accent fans alike by applying to join the Talk Like That Together Facebook group. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll come back next month. Goodbye. The theme music for Talk Like That is Antarctica by Audionautics and is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution license.